welcome everyone for today's media training for startups. It's nice to see that so many people of you joined today. To quickly introduce myself, my name is Vanessa. I'm part of the Startup Campus team, and today with me on the call are Stefan, who will introduce himself in a little bit, and also Linda. Want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. Really nice to see you, and thank you so much for joining today's session with Stefan.
Thank you. Just a quick word about Startup Campus. So we have a couple of trainings and events and an incubator. I'm not going to dive into it to not steal your time today or Stefan's time, but we will put a link in the chat where you can find all our offers. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Today's session is split into two parts. The first one will be like a training session where our trainer Stefan will teach you everything you need to know about how to get your startup media ready and how to pitch in front of the media. Then afterwards, we have a second part of the session where we pre-selected a couple of startups that can actually pitch and train how to pitch and receive direct feedback from us. So in the end, Stefan will tell you what to do, how we proceed afterwards. Then what else? Yeah, today's session will be recorded, so you don't need to make any screenshots. We will share the recording link afterwards, so you can dive back into it, and also let us know your questions if you have any afterwards. Feel free to reach out. And that's it from my side. So I wish you a lot of fun and a very good training session, and I'd like to hand over to... No, first, I forgot. Thank you, Stefan, for doing this today. That's always perfect. Yeah, so I'm handing over to you now.
Perfect. One moment. So I see one moment I have to... Okay, perfect. So, yeah, hello everybody. My name is Stefan. I'm also happy to be here and to share my knowledge about PR and storytelling with you. And thank you, Linda and Vanessa, for the invitation. So get your startup media ready. First, I want to introduce myself. That's me when I was younger, in 2007 in Munich. I first worked here in Switzerland as a radio journalist for Radio Top in the eastern part of Switzerland, and 2004 I wanted to hire at Radio 24. I unfortunately have a Thurgauer dialect, and that was the reason why they didn't want me to have at Radio 24. They told me we have enough Thurgauer, so my dialect was a problem. And then I just decided to move to Munich. There I visited a video journalism academy, and after 1 year I hired at ProSiebenSat.1 as a video journalist. I worked for different formats such as Galileo and others. And in 2007, I founded my first company. It was a marketplace for video content, scalable business model. 2008, one of the biggest publishers in Germany, Süddeutsche Zeitung, wanted to buy us. Unfortunately, it was 2008, so the deal crashed after the Lehman crisis, and then we had hard times. We had to pivot. We had to decide either to stop the business or to pivot, and we decided for the pivot. And then we turned the company into an explainer video company, something completely different, not scalable anymore, but nevertheless, the company grew up to 20 employees. And in 2018, I decided to come back to Switzerland. I convinced my wife, she's from Munich, to come with me. And she said, yes, but do not found a company anymore, please. And I said, okay. Then I hired at Wirtz, big advertising company here in Switzerland. And after 2 months, I asked my wife, please, can I find another company, because I'm not a fit anymore for a bigger company. And she said yes. And that was the starting point of StoryUp. And with StoryUp, we have two soils. One soil is we help startups and corporates, SMEs with their storytelling and pitch. I work as an InnoSwiss coach, as a startup campus coach, runway coach. To do that, I've coached almost 100 startups by now. And on the other hand, as also clients such as Deutsche Telekom, Touring Club, Switzerland, Zürcher Kantonalbank, and others. And yes, that's my little story, but now let's talk about what you can learn. And this first part, we have 1 hour to talk about PR, storytelling. And this is a big topic for many startups. And some startups think that just great, it's free advertising. No, it's not. It's unfortunately, it's not, because it's not, you can't plan it. That's the problem. Marketing, you have a plan, you have budgets, you can test, you can discuss your KPIs, and then you can improve. PR is some kind of a black box. Yes, because journalists sometimes want your story and sometimes not. And sometimes you can't have an explanation for it. Why? So, very important rule, PR is not free advertising, but PR is worth a lot if you have a placement in a media. But PR is as well a marathon. PR is not just one media release a year and that's it. No, not at all. So you need first PR strategy, and that's what we talk about today. And you need also, sometimes it's not so easy to write a PR, a media release. Now, I've seen many of them written by startups, and they were boring. No journalists would ever publish that. So be aware that to write a good story in a media release is also key. Or to meet a journalist on site for a coffee. Sometimes they have time if you have a good story. And if you don't have a good story and just want to meet them, maybe they do not answer. So be aware, this is a marathon and it needs kind of a strategic thinking. One point is that you should create a CRM with journalists, data, with contacts and influencers. This is a very important point. Not only journalists, but also influencers, B2B influencers. Influencers, opinion leaders in your ecosystem, either B2B or B2C, doesn't matter. It's important to reach out to them. It's a new world. It's not only journalists. It's also very important to think about all the influencers out there, because also with them you can reach out to your target groups at the end. So the problem is currently journalists are under pressure. When I was a journalist, we were already under pressure. The year 2000 until 2006, under 7, when I was journalist. So at Pro7Z1, for instance, we had every day our KPI meeting, and we analyzed the day before what was good and was not, the quote. And it was somehow big pressure. And this pressure is now in all the teams. For instance, Watson Online or Blick or NZZ, they have the KPIs and they know exactly what is going on. So their KPIs reach. And if you don't have a good story, no chance. So if you reach out to them with a boring story, with no hook, they will never publish it. You have to be aware that journalists are under pressure. They do not have a lot of time. So please be aware that it's not just let's do a little bit of PR and we are going to be successful. No, you need more. So the first thing is your story needs a good hook. But what is a good hook? I had the pleasure to work with many startups. Some of them already had some placements in the media, and I analyzed that placements with them. And others I helped to reach out to, for instance, here, Tagesanzeiger, and other media, other magazines of the Time Media Group. And this was a Splint Invest, a startup, a fintech startup. And I explain you later how we placed them. But at the end, the topic which was interesting, Splint Invest is a platform you can invest into, for instance, wine, whiskey, Lego, and other items. And we thought that the Lego topic could be very interesting for journalists, and that's the reason why we also tried to put that story into the media release and the report. And it worked. At the end, the Lego story, and not the whiskey story, not the wine story, not all the other stories, were interesting. So we can just try to find a hook, a media value. We also call it media value, which is relevant for the journalists and at the end for their readers, right? And that worked here quite well. But it's not only, in this case, a media release and a report, it's more. It's also maybe about the team and the business idea in combination. These two, Sophia and Jimena from Hungry Foods, they just started their startup, Hungry Foods, to fight food waste, to turn food waste into convenience menus. And they had a good combination of personality, interesting founder's story. They are brave, kind of. They go into an industry which is difficult. And on the other hand, it's the business idea itself, which is interesting for journalists. So you see, sometimes it's a combination of both founders, team, and business idea. And that is very important. So journalists need to know your founder's story. They want to know your personality. But on the other hand, they also want to realize, hey, is it an interesting business idea? And at the end, this was a business idea. The topic was, it fits to all of us. This is interesting for all of us at the end, food, yes? And that's the reason in this combination, because why that was a good hook in this case. So they had placements in Sonntagszeitung, Landbote, Tagesanzeiger, and many more magazines. This is also a very good example. This is the Nunley from Oxara. And yes, he has a worldwide reach with his story. And I want to dive deeper into that topic later. But it's also the founder's story itself, Nunley's story, which is amazing. I want to describe that later and show you what a method you can use for your own story. And the other thing is that with his business idea, he has a cement-free solution for affordable housing. And that is also a great topic, sustainability in poor countries. So this mixture of personality and business idea itself is also unique and interesting for journalists. So you see, there are some hooks. Sometimes it's kind of a combination. Sometimes it's also good. Just some examples. If you have a new board member who is famous in Switzerland, famous for whatever reason, but is famous, then this could be a moment for a media release. Maybe just for Startup Ticker, but why not? Or maybe for Bilanz or others. So you see if someone is famous. Or what also is good, for instance, if an ancient Swisscom top manager is the founder of a company, that is also something good for publishers, for magazines, for journalists. They think, okay, I know that person, wow, is going to leave the job and they're going to take the risk of founding a startup. Great story. So you see, there are some hooks, famous, it's an interesting story, an interesting founder story, an innovative business idea. There are some hooks. But nevertheless, you need a PR strategy. And it's very important to reach out with your content frequently. And therefore, there is this 3 points: owned, earned, paid media. So let's dive into the topic. Owned media. These are your channels you own. This is LinkedIn. So I've been working with Felipe Gans from Endoscopic for a long time now, and he plays it well on his LinkedIn channel on one hand, and on the other hand, here the instance, the example of Oxara, they play it also well on their company channel. So you see, it's both. It's your personal LinkedIn channel, your personal brand you have to work with, or if you like to work with, because I've also worked with some founders. They're not so outgoing, and for them it's more difficult to do that. But if you have someone in the team who is going to who likes it to work on LinkedIn on the private channel, that is a good mixture. Because to start, yes, Oxara is successful on on his corporate channel, but at the end, for LinkedIn, it's much easier because the algorithm prefers personal channels and you have more reach. So, but you need both. Owned media, LinkedIn, your personal channel, and the company channel. As a startup, as a brand, you should work on that. The next thing is the blog. This is also one source for journalists. Maybe there are some interesting articles, blog posts they can dive in. It's also in terms of SEO interesting, because journalists also make sometimes a little research on Google. And if you have a niche topic, it's great that they find you there, they read something, maybe also then they reach out to you for an interview or whatever. So you see, it's not only just a media release and that's it. No, it's work. You need a content strategy, kind of. And a content strategy, not only with advertising content, no, with content, with journalistic content, neutral content. Podcast. Hangry Food started its podcast, and this is also a way maybe to reach out to them. So, and to mention more possibilities, for instance, newsletter and so on. Yes, there are many possibilities, but be aware, it's not only writing something about over ChatGPT, go out and that's it. No, you need to think about storytelling, about hooks, about interesting topics, about how can I help these people? What is relevant for the people out there? And then the chance is much higher that one day journalists will find you. The next point is earned media. And here we have another, in my opinion, great example. This is Claudia Schecke, from CEO and co-founder from Oncobit. They have a cancer monitoring solution, and she was nominated for the Female Innovator of the Year 23. She didn't win, but she was nominated, and she was kind of surprised that that happened. And I asked her, why do you think you were nominated? And she told me for everything. First of all, she isn't that outgoing, she told me. Her target group are oncologists. So, but you need kind of a starting point. You need to be active in your network. You need to be active. And her starting point were pitch competitions like Venture Kick or Venture Leaders. And they have helped them to generate awareness. So one day she was nominated out of that network, out of that ecosystem. And she has her awareness, a good awareness in this ecosystem. So you see, you need to be active in networking, in this Swiss to start ecosystem, startup ecosystem. It's a good starting point. It's also here to mention Startup Campus, Impact Hub. They also have a big community. It's good to be there. It's good to be active. It's good to be as a speaker on site, to have speaker slots, to use all these possibilities to reach out, because Also here at these events, sometimes journalists join, they are there, they're interested. I was also, when I was journalist, I visited events just to find some new stories, to find some interesting personalities, because to have the next cool story is also for journalists interesting. But then it's cool to be anonym on site, to see someone and think, wow, speaks well, charismatic personality. Okay, let's try. Maybe a good story. Yes. Her starting point as well was she was active. She went with venture leaders to the USA, and she wrote the blog posts for them. Yes. And so be as active as you can. And at the end, you will have more awareness also from influencers and journalists. And that helps you at the end, that maybe they write a story about you. The same was with Ximena and Sofia. So they were and are very successful, have great placements in different medias. And I asked her how. And they won the ZHW Startup Challenge. And then the ZHW made a media release, and 20 minutes came, became aware of them, and wrote the story. And after that 20-minute story, many others followed. So you see, we journalists are also kind of pragmatic. We read and scan the other magazines. And if there is a good story, yeah, we also create. So to have one placement with a good story is worth a lot, because then you have a much bigger chance that you have placements in other media and other magazines. So be aware that to get your first placement is sometimes quite tricky, but then the chance is higher and bigger that you can have other placements. But be aware. Maybe you have a story in mind. I also discussed that some weeks ago with one startup. The one co-founder told me, yes, we had a placement, but it was the wrong story. It was not so positive for us. So be aware, journalists are, it's not like marketing where you have your message in mind and then you go with that message. No, it's journalists. Be aware that they write what they want to write, and they write a story they think it's a story. It's not as easy. Yeah, be aware of that, that it's not so easy, such as marketing. Another very good example is from yesterday. Here, the nomination for the Swiss Economic Forum Woman Award, and the founder I work with is Alessia Schrepfer from Wieners, and I asked her yesterday evening, hey, what happened? And she just told me, hey, I applied after receiving an innovation by email, and this innovation invitation came. Yeah, she doesn't know why she got an invitation. Maybe she was nominated, and then she was kind of nominated for the best free, and now she can pitch in front of a jury in mid-December. Why do I tell you this? Because you see, to be nominated for an award, to have speaker slots is key for the personal branding, awareness. There you have the biggest chance to reach out as a thought leader. You are the thought leader with a topic in your industry. And you are the one on stage. You are the one in blog posts on LinkedIn and so on. So you have your topic, and with that topic, you are the one in Switzerland, or one of the best and of the most famous. So this is great if you can reach that goal. That helps you a lot also for PR, because you are then in your field kind of famous, a thought leader, and that's great for journalists. When I worked as a journalist, we had a database with some persons, and if there was a topic, kind of, each topic, sustainability, we had few experts and we called them to have a short interview about a new trend or whatever. So we had our database, they have the database. If you are in that database, it's just great. But therefore, you have to work on your personal branding. And here, it's the Splint Invest report I mentioned. So I helped them to create kind of a report. It was a 15 to 20 page report about investments. It was kind of content marketing with data from Splint Invest. And it was interesting because it was kind of unique, because only Splint Invest has this data. And they also combined it with quotes of experts they work with. So it was kind of work to create that report. And at the end, they made a media release out of the report, and the result was that all time media magazines published it in their ecosystem. This is the highest reach you can have in Switzerland. And that is just one thing. If you have some data, some unique information, content, it's a possibility to create something for journalists, which is interesting. And this is then the marathon. They now publish this twice a year, this report, and they work on the branding for the report so that the Splint Invest report will become more famous, and that journalists one day read that report because they know it's interesting. So it's also, if you start creating something special, something unique, then it needs also kind of a little branding that it is interesting for the journalists. Some of you know it maybe, that journalists sometimes with special interest, then they have the problem that how to finance their magazines. And so they ask you then, yeah, we can write something or make something with you, but you have to pay for it. Paid media. And sometimes, yes, native ads, sponsored posts, whatever, such as here the example of Watson. Yes, sometimes it's worth. If you have a good story, try it out. It's not so easy. It's expensive. It depends upon the reach and the target group. The more special interest, the biggest the chance that they ask you for it. But there are some other hacks. Maybe if you are, for instance, you see this connection between some journalists and the advertising team, and be aware that they have to work together. And maybe you can have, once you had a native ad, maybe then you can reach out, can you connect me with this journalist or however, and then drink a coffee with them, and maybe one day they also write something about you. So the same is, for instance, how to reach out to journalists. If there are events, yes, ask the organization or ask the event organizers, hey, is there a journalist here? Can I reach out to them? So use all the touch points. Maybe that is an event or a possibility where they have time, they are not under pressure these days, and then it's good to meet them. So you see, it's kind of networking. It's not also journalists are human beings, and yeah, they like an interesting talk, a coffee, a short conversation with you. So this is about journalists. We talked about the storytelling, the hook. And to find this hook, there are some methods. And one method, the most famous method, is the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell. He's mythologist, and he has found out that we humans have been telling each other stories the same way. There is a method called the hero's journey. And this hero's journey is also used in many famous movies, such as Titanic, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Rocky, and many, many Netflix series. So you see, the hero's journey is kind of a way a story is successful. And I will show you later the hero's journey of Nandli, because this is a great hero's journey, and it helps us to have more emotional stories. To be honest, there are also possibilities to have kind of some modules or some levels out of this hero's journey we can use for also for complex B2B startup stories, also for complex circumstances. So we can try it out. I have two different examples with me I will share with you to the whole group, and that show you how we can use these canvas, these ways of storytelling. Here you see first of all the personal story. Yes, so I say startup stories need startup heroes. It's both. We need this combination of startup stories, good, innovative business, unique. You do something creative, something new. There is a magic behind. And on the other hand, it's quite the greatest combination you can have if there is also an interesting founder's story. So this combination is very interesting. So I mentioned Nandli Landru, and he also had his personal story, for instance, here in the NZZ magazine. And so it's just a great story. He started going to school with 16, and therefore I just took that story and got it as an example in the canvas. You see it here. First of all, we have to think about in this storytelling, in this hero's journey, who is the hero? This is Nandli. So this in the personal story, you can be the hero because it's your story. It's your story. But if you just make a success story, then it's no hero story. Yes. You see it now, and I will afterwards explain the story of Rocky Balboa. Then you see it's similar. Yes. So you see Nandli, and he started his story, his journey in Western Africa, and his obstacle was, hey, no school education until 16. And yes, his internal struggle was there was little chance of improvement. And in that time with his uncle, that was a migrant worker, he traveled through West Africa and he built houses with clay. So he learned a lot of West Africa, of building houses, and not with big machines. So it was for him key to know that. And later on, then his parents, this was then the change event, enabled him to travel to France to visit some people they know. And there he was able to attend school. This was a key moment for him, because there, and we're on the left-hand side, who is the mentor? A teacher noticed his scientific talent. And that was a great moment. So this teacher was kind of Gandalf for him. And this teacher helped him to, and then that's the magic, the next point. With his help, Nandli spent 2 years catching up all he had missed in 2 years. We need years, many years more for that. It took him 2 years. And the result was, since 2018, he then visited different university, also ATH, and he has been building up the spin-off Oxara for sustainable construction and affordable housing. So you see, a great story, a great personal story. So this is the typical hero's journey. The hero's journey is also Hollywood, for instance. Who is the hero? Let's take Rocky. Rocky Balboa is the hero. He is a street fighter, mafiosi, and he is kind of catched in his, he has no chance to get out of his ecosystem, of his ghetto. And the change event then is one day he gets the chance to fight against the world champion. But that change event changed a lot. He has he struggles. He doesn't believe in himself. His wife is anxious, Adrian, and he needs some help from outside. So meanwhile, the teacher was the mentor of Nanli. Mickey is the mentor of Rocky, or Gandalf is the mentor of Frodo. And so they help them to believe in themselves and to go the way. So, and the magic then for Rocky is that the more he trained, the more he felt confident, the more he believed in himself. And the real magic then was, and Joseph Campbell calls that suing the sword, when he was fighting against the world champion, he was knocked down and nobody believed that he will get up again. He got up again, and he didn't win, he didn't lose, but at the end he came back, and the result was a from zero to hero story. He changed his life. He wasn't the mafiosi anymore. He was a hero, one who fought against the world champion. And that is this typical from zero to hero story. So you see the change, something changed. So this is a typical personal story. I know when I presented this story on different conferences, people asked me, hey, Stefan, this is, yeah, he has this story, great, but I don't have such a story. But each of you has a story which you had some obstacles. Many of you are founders, so you have an honest story, and try to find kind of with such a framework a story which is interesting. Yes, if there is one, if you feel don't feel well, okay, then maybe you focus on the startup story. So you see, this is the first try to have the personal story canvas, to use that. And on the other hand, you can also explain your startup story. If you feel, my personal story is no fit, so go for the startup story. And here it's not you which is the hero. Your customer is the hero. That is very important. On your personal story, you are the hero, and you had these problems, the way go through. And here you are Frodo, and that your customer is Frodo. And you, as a company, as a brand, you are Gandalf. Yes. So I will show you the example of Philippe Gans and AI Endoscopic. So they are a MedTech spin-off, and they simplify endoscopy. So who is the hero? In this case, it's not Philippe. It's, for instance, David Schurter, an emergency physician. And the problem of the pain of David Schurter is that intubation is, you need experience. And this is key to make a successful intubation, especially on site in an emergency case. You don't have time. And this time counts because it's about human lives. It's about minutes sometimes. And on the other hand, you also have in the hospitals economic pressure, too little time for training. So, and especially, for instance, in the USA, this is a big problem because they don't have enough time for training. So they have a much higher rate of problems where they're not successful. And at the end, it's horrible for human beings. What is going to happen then? So the change event for this David Schurter was, and we had a customer interview with him, and also Philippe had him as a testimonial. The first time he tried out the solution of AI endoscopic. It was kind of a change event for him because he realized it's much easier to conduct this intubation on site when you're under pressure. And who is the mentor? In that case, it's the startup. You can decide even if you want to be the mentor as a person or your brand. But in that case, we said AI endoscopic is the mentor, and the magic is the AI behind. So this is then what makes it easier for the emergency physicians on site to make the intubation. And the result, to save more lives. That's it. So this is the quite easy way of the story. It's much more complicated, to be honest, but I didn't want to make it too complicated, because I think if you see that, it's easier for you to understand, okay, how could I create my story? How could I use this for my startup? And so you see, we have two different, and this is very important, we have two different storylines, which are, in my opinion, very important to have. The personal story and the startup story, they have to be just ready, not 2 years old. So prepare them, be ready with the stories. It's like I work with many startups also to prepare their pitch. So it's also here, you need this story. This story you can also use as a little version, 60 seconds version, for instance, as for an elevator pitch on a fair, in a sales meeting. You can use this story, for instance, for a competition pitch, or you can use this story if you want to tell some friends or your grandma what you do with your startup. So some tips for this story as well. I've seen many pitches and they were too complicated. It was sometimes so difficult to understand what they do. Put it in a nutshell, be precise, not too technical. Prepare also a story others understand. Be concrete. There is one important rule: zoom out means zoom out the facts, figures, numbers, new laws. For instance, net zero 2050, zoom out. It's just there, but it doesn't trigger any emotions. Zoom in is a concrete example. What does that mean to this person in this moment? Be precise, dive into that topic, and then if you use that, you have a good chance for a better storytelling. This is also important for journalists as well, that they have some examples, that they feel there is something. Here you see a concrete example with David Schurter. It's very concrete. There is a concrete case. You see, if possible, have this story ready, then you can have a much better storytelling. Also, to reach out to journalists, to influencers, but also to investors, and at the end to your customers, to have a better sales pitch. So, and last but not least, some startups in the InnoSwiss coaching program, where I'm coach as well, we have also the scale-up phase, and some startups go to other countries, and then it's all the times the question, so can we have one PR media release out of Switzerland to England to USA? It's difficult. You need people in these countries, PR experts who know the journalists, who make you an intro, who know the media landscape. So if you want to reach out, you need a clear strategy. And for each country, you need a new strategy. So it's the same with advertising. If you want to grow, if you have a scale-up plan, go-to-market plan for other countries, you need local know-how, because otherwise it's so difficult. So you can't compare, for instance, Switzerland. I've worked many years in Germany. It's completely different. It's, for instance, here in my industry, in the advertising, storytelling industry, it's much easier to have a placement in Persönlich or Werbewoche Then in Germany, Werben und Verkaufen Horizont, much more difficult to have a placement there. So you see, you can't compare these different markets. You need experts on site, regional experts. They know their market, they know the journalists, the behavior. So sorry, it's not so easy. In other countries, you need a new plan, new experts, a new go-to PR market strategy. So that was from my side. We have now time for some questions, but if you want to, just a short call to action, if you want to work with me, you can do that. I'm InnoSwiss special coach. There is this other coaching program, the initial coaching, core coaching, and scale-up coaching. I'm coach there. And there are other possibilities also here in Startup Campus. We have different formats where I'm pitch coach. And then at the end, I'm also coach at the Runway Startup Support. So if you want to work with me, let's get in contact. Here you can reach out on LinkedIn to me. You can let's connect. If you have any questions, get in contact to me. And now I'm happy to answer the questions. And thank you very much.
I have a question, if that's all right.
Right.
Thank you, Stefan, for the presentation. Super interesting. The Swiss media landscape is very foreign to me. So it was super interesting to see that part of it works like everywhere else, right? So my first startup was using PR services to get people informed, right, about the product and so on. I wonder, in terms of media cycle and something you could call media elevation in Switzerland, right? How does that work? Like, you have a small publication that is sharing a topic or sharing a company story, right? Do you see that there is a chance to get it picked up by bigger media, right? So to become a bit of a self-propelling cycle, right, for the company to be better known?
Oh, it's so difficult to answer because it depends upon the topic. Is that topic relevant? Is it a bigger trend?
Let's say it's trendy. So I have a couple of ideas around AI at this stage,
okay,
right, that I'm working on. And I wonder, because obviously this is trendy, this is sexy, people are talking about this, right? I wonder to what degree media are kind of catching up on this, right? And are willing to spread the word.
Yeah, okay, AI is a big topic. On the other hand, man, there is so much AI topics, so many AI topics, a big competition currently. That's also a problem. So the example of Felipe, he has a concrete example where he can save lives at the end. So this is interesting for the bigger magazines. So you have to think about what could be interesting for bigger magazine at the end, not only AI. That's a good example, Slavik, that you mentioned it. What at the end is the good thing for many people, for the target group of this magazine? Because then at the end, you see hungry foods. This combination of turning food waste into convenience menus, almost impossible, because Migros and Coop didn't want to touch that business. And these two founders did it. So that was the mixture of story. So it's kind of, it has to be a popular topic. There has to be a ground for it. And then out of special interest going bigger, sometimes it's not so easy. And you mentioned it, blockchain, AI, and so on. It's not enough. You need more. I call it zoom in. Give me a concrete example. What is the benefit for a family or for whoever? We need more meat on the story.
Yeah, of course. There's a bigger idea than just jockeying you on the train. But yeah, thanks for the answers.
Yeah.
I just also quickly wrote it in the chat. If anyone has questions and doesn't feel comfortable asking them out loud, feel free to also post them in the chat. But I highly recommend use Stefan while he's here. He is such an experienced expert in this field. So use the time that you have to ask him some questions.
I might have a question.
Yeah.
Stefan, so what time in the process do you think startups should develop the storytelling and approach the media? Like, would you recommend it from day one, or once they're kind of settled in and got their first customers, and then in the second step, as once they've got a solid product, and then the second step, engage more in media and storytelling?
Yes, so I can give a clear answer when it comes to sales and marketing. There you have to need the product market fit. If you want to invest more in sales and marketing, this is a clear rule. So you need a clear product market fit. But to answer that in that field, in the field of PR, maybe PR also helps you to create product market fit. Yes, there is one example, OLED. They reached out with a video, and the product wasn't ready. It was just a prototype. And they, from the feedback they got, they had many placements in bigger medias, bigger magazines, and the feedback helped them to create kind of the market validation. Yes, so you can also use PR in some cases for a market validation. Is this a topic? Is there a need out there? And then you can later on make the tech validation. So this could be one way, but at the end, it's also a question of resources. Yeah, when is it great to if you're not kind of validating in this phase or trying to find a product market fit, if you are just ready with your product, then it's, in my opinion, key to get that into your marketing PR strategy, and also some budgets for some experts, and that you have a good team to make this possible. So I hope it's all the times difficult to give a clear answer because there are many, but these are our experiences.
Yes, thank you.
There was one question from Jamie in the chat who asked if you can recommend any tools to create content. Maybe that's AI tools, also to generate images, for example. I'm curious about that answer too. So great question, Jamie.
For ChatGPT, it makes the life easier, and you can write good texts with that. I see it more in a co-creation, to be honest. Let ChatGPT write your text, but then go in. And in my opinion, in that case, it's if you have a good briefing, for instance, for an expert, a writer, or an agency, it's the same with ChatGPT. You need a very good briefing. Then ChatGPT will write a much better text. And on the image level, it's definitely Midjourney and DALL-E. To mention, and yeah, it's sometimes great what you have as pictures, but sometimes it's kind of also a black box what comes out. You prompt, and you don't get your result. So it's kind of also an experience. You need to try it out. But I know, for instance, it's very interesting. Yesterday I also coached from the Deutsche Telekom communications team, and they use it, ChatGPT, to write everything in the daily business, not only startups. So, but it's this co-creation. You need to be an expert to use it in a good way and in a successful way. That's my opinion. It's not just write a text, go on LinkedIn, and that's it. So this is the short answer, but it's a co-creation.
Thank you for your presentation, Stefan. If I may ask a question as well, you mentioned separating the founder's story from the startup story. How would you recommend balancing that if you have a story for both? If you have a really strong founder story, but you also want to bring in that client-centric story with the startup and not just focus on the founder story?
I think, yeah, it's a good question, because one day maybe you have co-founders, others joining the team, and then there's a first thing. You see Sam Altman. Do you want to focus this is a strategic topic as well. How much focus you want on one person? Is that a goal, and can it help you to grow? It's also a question of personality. For instance, when I founded in Germany the companies, I didn't want to get too much focus on my name. So then I say, create more stories, have more people, let's call it corporate influence program, have more people using their personal brand for the company, and then so split it. That is one point, and the other point is also focus on your branding, on the company's brand. So that is one way. Split the personal branding to many characters, and on the other hand, get a focus on your brand, on the company's owned media channels.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I think all of you are now media ready. No, but soon. There's a lot to do. It's a marathon, and it was a pleasure to have you here. And we will send you the